Question for you, Ms. Centino, and I apologize, I think I was not pronouncing it exactly correct. But Ms. Centino, how many Democrats voted for the SAVE Act in July?
I'm not aware. I can look into it and get back to you.
It would five Democrats voted for it, and 3 of whom are Hispanic, one of whom is black. Do you believe that their vote was a discriminatory vote?
Do I believe their votes were discriminatory?
Right. Do you believe those votes, or that they supported that or voted for that because they support discriminating against minority voters?
I believe that those votes are bad public policy.
Ms. Jenks, you mentioned earlier, but I want to explore just a little further, that last Congress, our colleagues on the other side of the aisle passed legislation, the Dream and Promise Act, that in part allows DHS to waive the inadmissibility of aliens that illegally voted if doing so is deemed to be in the public interest. Now, why would they do that if there's not a problem with people who are illegally present in the United States voting?
There's only one reason to do that, and that is that illegal aliens are voting. I mean, there's no other explanation. And by the way, the American Dream and Promise Act that was introduced in this Congress contains the same provision. And the U.S. Citizenship Act that the Biden administration wrote and submitted to Congress in like the first week is worse because it actually automatically waives non-citizen voting and false claims to U.S. citizenship, so registering to vote.
How many illegal aliens has the Biden-Harris regime allowed into the country in their tenure?
At least 7.5 million allowed to enter into the country and remain.
And that number comes from public sources, right? The government reported sources of the number of releases into the United States, correct, whether they're unaccompanied alien children or whether they're notices to appear under the parole program, via the CBP One app, whatever it is, the releases under the administration's policies, which totals somewhere in the range of 5.5 million plus the roughly 2 million gotaways. Is that correct?
Yes.
So 7.5 million people now in the United States. If just 1% of those individuals, we're talking, doing math in my head real quick, is that 75,000? If 1% of those individuals were to register to vote, that's a pretty significant number, correct? That could have a significant impact on elections in states where, for example, Al Franken won his Minnesota Senate seat by 300 votes, where a number of congressional colleagues of ours have won by 300 and something votes, where Merritt Miller Meeks won by 6 votes. So would you agree that's a pretty significant number?
Absolutely, and it's not just the 7.5 million illegal aliens, it's also the rest of the non-citizens who are in the country. So legal immigrants, refugees, they're all foreign students, all of these categories of non-citizens, all of them representing 30 million people, some percentage are voting.
Ms. Mitchell, there have been concerns stated by some colleagues, frankly on both sides of the aisle, that if we pass the SAVE Act today, about 2 months out before the election, that it would have a limited impact. Now, my perspective and my answer, I want to see if you would agree, is that the SAVE Act is effective at the time of enactment. That's how it's designed, that is how it's written. That 22 states and the District of Columbia allow voters to register to vote on Election Day, meaning passing the SAVE Act would have an impact all the way up to Election Day. That the SAVE Act also requires all states to remove non-citizens from their existing roles through Election Day and gives them the tools to do so that we've discussed, access to the databases that we've talked about. And so would you agree that even if we pass the SAVE Act now, or in the coming week or two, that it would have a massive impact on securing the 2024 election?
I absolutely do, and that's why I think it's so important that you're having this hearing, and I think it's so important for Congress to pass the SAVE Act, for it to become effective immediately.
Is there, Mr. Secretary Byrd, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, what the SAVE Act or what the NVRA prohibits is a systematic removal process. States can still do an individualized process per person. If we had more access to more information, we could definitely do more list maintenance, which is critical to ensuring a fair election and trust in the electorate. Without the SAVE Act or something similar, are you able to know how many people slip through the cracks and vote illegally or illegally present in the United States and vote in the state of Florida? It makes it very, very difficult to near impossible. Well, I appreciate that.